Welcome to Bets on the Future, where we highlight the various career paths in the electrifying metals world. From the vehicle you ride in to the bridge holding it up, metals are everywhere. Why not in your career too? I'm Jennifer Betts, a metals industry veteran with almost 20 years experience, here to highlight these incredible career paths as told by the women who are living them. Today, we have a true lead by example leader joining us. Please give a warm welcome to Christine Saavedra of SA Recycling, the largest network of metal recycling facilities in North America. Christine brings a wealth of knowledge, operations experience, and volunteerism to the table. With a background in operations, she has achieved remarkable success over the past 2 decades of work within the recycled materials industry. She has built an incredible team and received multiple awards for her volunteer efforts in her community. Get ready for an inspiring conversation about metal recycling and how these types of operations help their local communities. I want to thank Christine Saavedra, the Community Outreach Manager at SA Recycling, for joining us today. The intent of this is to showcase and highlight all the variety of career opportunities and different career paths that are available in the metals industry. And so I just want to give a huge shout out to Christine for joining us today, and I will let her introduce herself a little bit further.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Christine Saavedra. I started in the metal recycling industry almost 22 years ago. I was hired when it was Adams Steel in Anaheim. And I worked in operations for many years in different roles and positions. And I'm still in operations, but I also do the community outreach for the LA area.
That's fantastic. I want to know a little bit more about your background, because I always find it so interesting how people find the metals industry. Did you have a friend? Was it a career fair? Like, how did you find this business?
So I was looking for a new job. I'm combing through the newspaper. I think it's still around. I'm not sure. It's called La Opinión, and it's a Spanish language newspaper, local to LA. And I saw an ad and I called and they said, we have a couple of things open. Why don't you come and interview? So I went down to Anaheim and I was interviewed. I was met there by Christy Rossi. If you remember Christy Rossi, may she rest in peace. She's an awesome person. And Mary Beth McFadden, who's the director of our commercial, our Ferris. And so I went out there and they said, the position was filled, but we do have other, like we said, we have other positions and we think you might fit. And so I said, okay. And I interviewed with the manager there and he needed an assistant. And I said, I'm good. Okay. I went from working like in the hotel industry, we wear skirts and heels and everyone is in their nice clothes to, I had to come into work. I didn't even really own jeans. I had to go out and buy more jeans. Steel toe boots. And there was a time, I want to say like my first 2 weeks, I would leave for lunch and I would say, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I'll just not come back and I'll just call. And it was, his name was Carl Clark. He worked for Adams Steel for so many years. He passed away it's going to be maybe going on 10 years, 9 or 10 years now. And, I said, maybe I just won't come back. And I'll call him and I'll say, you know what, I'm really sorry. This is not the field for me. And, they say my mama didn't raise no quitter, right? So I said, let me just push through. I'm already here, So I went back every single day in my steel toe boots and little by little can you help us with this? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. Whatever needed to be done, that's what I did. And I got to learn more about the recycling industry. And I started working with the guys that ran the shredder crew and, doing like helping them to streamline the ordering of their parts and to warehouse their parts so that, they had that kind of stock. And I remember Mike Adams, who's one of the owners, he has his office there and so patient. Because sometimes I wouldn't understand, like, I don't know what this is, and he would totally take the time and be like, this is how the shredder works. And this is how we need to change things out. And everybody there was like that. George Adams had his office there. And when people talk about SA being, open, the door is open, like literally his door was open. You could walk in and be like, hey, George, I have a question. And you would see him there early every day, you know. And George Senior, but may he also rest in peace. He was there every single day, early, working like and these were the owners of the company, and they're working their butts off. And so you get a sense of, I need to make sure that I'm working my butt off, because this is the example that I'm given, you know. And it was really just a good learning environment, I think, in Anaheim. And I was there for maybe about 5 or 6 years. I don't remember how long I was there, maybe longer, until I transferred out to one of the other locations.
That's fantastic. It really drives home the point of how you don't have to have any metals experience. What you're describing with the owners and the people that you worked with in the beginning, being open to share their experiences, to help educate you in terms of even what a shredder is, which we can get to that in a minute because I find it fascinating. It just really drives home the point that you don't have to have experience in this industry. But what's unique about other industries is that you can take the skills that you learned. I'm sure in hospitality, you probably have plenty of, I would say, skills in terms of dealing with difficult people and how to deal with them professionally. And it 100% translates between the two. Absolutely.
And customer service, you know, I tell people sometimes, because even before the hotel, I worked retail. I think my first job was El Pollo Loco, you know. And you know, you just have to be nice to people. That's your job. You're getting paid. And so sometimes I'll even be in the car and I look over and I smile and I'm like, I'm not at work. The person looks over and smiles or waves and I'm like, oh man. And yeah, or if I'm at the place that I will tell you, like if I'm at Target and somebody asks me, do you know where the bread is? I will go straight down, past 3 aisles, and you're gonna see this, and then you're gonna make a left and go, because at Target I do know where everything is. I know enough not to wear red there anymore, but I know enough to direct you. Or I would always, you know, we need this, run to Home Depot. Now I always take off my safety vest before I get in there, because then it would be like, excuse me. And I don't know where most of the stuff is at Home Depot. So I can't help them there. But yeah, you can't, I don't think once you trained yourself to react to customers a certain way, you don't ever turn that off. And I always get that. Do you work here? No, I don't, but let me help you. What do you need? It just stays with you, I think.
It absolutely does. It's probably something that's been incredibly useful in your career. I mean, you're obviously staying at the same company for, you said 20 years at this point?
It's gonna be in October, 22 years, yeah.
Which is unheard of these days, which is so fantastic. And it really shows to yourself, to the company, to the policies there, to the culture that's there. I mean, your first 5-6 years, you had direct access to the owners. I mean, SA isn't exactly a small company, if you want to put it in perspective of the rest of the recycling world. So it's really incredible that you had that access, and it shows, you know, a reason to stay.
And a lot of people that are here are have been here longer than me. So they'll still be like, oh, I've been here 30 years, or you know. and it just tells to the company, right? There's a lot of people that have been here for a long time. I wish I could say like, oh yeah, I'm just that great, that's why I've been here that long. There's a lot of good people in this company, yeah. And there's a lot of friends that I've made along the way. I know that I was reading yesterday, was a Gallup poll or something about having friends at work, or why having a best friend at work is so important. And I think that's one of the things too. Like if you cannot find a mentor, you can get a work buddy, somebody that you can bounce ideas off of, because challenges will come. there's always going to be something difficult or something that you might not understand, but when you feel comfortable enough to be able to reach out to somebody else or say, hey, look at this, have you seen this before? This is happening in my location. Oh yeah, and this is what we do. And so then I just going back to the article, right, because I was just reading it yesterday, and it's something that I think that's why people also stay for so long, because they do find that camaraderie. Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be as common these days. I mean, we're recording this during a time when there have been a lot of layoffs in some other industries. So to be able to see SA recycling in particular grow over the years, it highlights how the metals industry, particularly the recycling side, is going to be one of those recession-proof industries, right? Where it's always something that's going to be needed, something that's going to always have a place in our society, locally and globally. How many yards in perspective does SA have at this point?
I believe it's 134, I want to say. Yeah.
And you wouldn't happen to know how many states y'all are in at this point?
You would be surprised, but there's one thing about me is that I remember numbers very well. Numbers and faces. I never remember where I leave my keys. That's why I had to leave them in the exact same spot every day. Or in the morning, forget it. Me and my kids will be like, where did I leave the keys? And so I believe it's 13 states. Yeah.
That's incredible. A lot of people see the metals recycling industry as the blue bin at the end of your driveway. And it is so much more than that. And I bet you have front row seat to that as community outreach manager. Do you want to share a little bit about what you're working on in terms of helping educate and connecting with the community?
Yeah, definitely. I start with my own community first, right? So with my students, they're not my students, my kids and their friends. And, I volunteer a lot. I volunteer heavily in my city, to the point where people are always asking me, do you work for the school district? Do you work at the school? No, I'm just, anytime I have time off, here I am, and in the evenings when there's meetings, I'm always the first parent there. And I'm always preaching about recycling because some people don't understand how many things can be recycled. John Sacco has that repurpose series. I've shared it. The ISRI docuseries that came out, it featured Brandy Harlow and George Adams. I want to say it was like the 6th series or the 3rd series. But that was a great series. Jobs in future tech. And my son, he's in a program, it's called Project Lead the Way. And he wants to be an engineer when he, gets out of school or whatever. So I'm always going back to all the things that recycling does and all the things that we get out of recycling, and trying to put it into perspective to people that might not be around recycling a lot. I was at a quarterly breakfast the other day. We volunteer a lot with the chambers, and I tell people, where they say, what do you recycle? And I say, we take everything from the fridge to the bridge. So just remember, if it falls anywhere in between there, you can call me and we can recycle it for you. That means if it's laying around your house, a stove, a refrigerator, an old bicycle, if you have a company that is knocking down a bridge, if you have or knocking down a building, you have rebar, it's a byproduct of your industrial production. All this stuff, we will gladly take it. We will repurpose it. It will come back to you as steel, and it'll be used in new things. Because I want to say I love that repurpose series because it kind of explains what I've been trying to explain to people. Like, you see your door, like that just didn't come out of nowhere. All of it, your toaster oven, your stove, everything comes out of recycling. And that's what I try to do when I go out into the public, and networking events and stuff like that, and just let people know it's not just bottles and cans, because that's what people say. Oh, you take bottle, and actually, no, actually, I don't recycle bottles and cans. Don't bring them to me because I won't be able to help you. But we do everything else from the fridge to the bridge. We'll take it.
And you have some of the most incredible, I would say, automobile shredders in the country. They're definitely size-wise up there, particularly one down in Long Beach, because we're both in the LA area. And so I'd had the pleasure of touring that facility before, and it is impressive. And most people, they don't understand how, when they're done with their fridge, their washer dryer, even their car, what happens to it after it's done. And in reality, they're probably driving a piece of their old car, or their old car is in their new washer and dryer. Or, I like to use metal cups when I'm drinking at the home office, and trying to translate that for the general public is absolutely key, because they're not going to connect the two in terms of what the recycling world does, or that it's even an industry or a career track for people.
Yes. And it's like, once you've been in this industry, that's it. It's part of you. So I ran for city council, what is it now, like 6 years ago or something like that. And I went out to get what is it called? The endorsement of a group that they're, recycling, they're conservationists, this is what they do. And they interviewed me, and, I thought nothing of it. Everybody, there's a bunch of incumbents. Why would they even look twice at me? And they called me back, a couple days later, and they just said, well, we just want to let you know that we were all blown away by your interview. And I was like, me? By my interview? Like, what did I say? And they're like, well, you were talking about this and that, and, how you teach your kids to use recyclable bags, and how you, all this stuff you do. And I was like, doesn't everybody do that? And they said no. And that's when that's kind of when it hit me, like, wow, so you're saying that not everybody does this stuff. And I told them, I've been working for a recycling company for so long. It's part of who we are. We take care of the earth, so to know that it's not that it's not normal, but it's kind of a foreign concept to some people. And they were just so happy that, somebody like me would step up for this kind of a position. Yeah. So
that's fantastic. We need more of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some of the bigger challenges you've faced in your career in the metals industry?
I think the biggest challenges, I think, I look at challenges as opportunity potentials. So no matter how hard or challenging it may seem, I always think, okay, and I teach my kids this. I'm sure they're sick of hearing it, but at their middle school, they teach it to them a lot, and it's called growth mindset, So if you have a setback, if you have a challenge, if you have a difficult situation, if you failed at what you were trying to accomplish or didn't work out, you take a step back and you say, okay, how am I going to solve this? Right. Because even people that may be in your career and in anyone's career, not just metals, I'm just talking in general, maybe have tried to deter you, or maybe might have, I'll put it in a nice way, constructive criticism about you. So you should even take that and say, well, let me look, because a weakness or a challenge could always just be an opportunity in disguise for you to make yourself better, for you to learn, for you to grow. And so I don't think I've had any other challenges that maybe other people don't face every single day.
It speaks to the recycling industry's start, to be honest. It's exactly how recycling, particularly in the industrialized countries, got started. Is there was essentially a byproduct coming out of these manufacturing facilities, whether it was rags from fabrics or metal or paper, something along those lines. There was more or less trash. And individuals saw an opportunity. Instead of saying this is a problem and we have to clean it up, they looked at it as this is an opportunity. And some of those family-owned businesses that got started up, at the turn of the century, around the 1900s, still exist today, or they've been acquired by other companies, some by SA Recycling as well, but they're still operating today. It's that mindset, that growth mindset of seeing the opportunity out of a challenge is really going to help drive anyone in any career.
Definitely.
Let's see here. What are some other ones? What advice do you have for young professionals who are just starting their careers in the metals industry?
What advice do I have? I would say find a mentor. Like we were talking about, get someone on your side that you can trust, you can bounce ideas off of, you can work through challenges, find a work buddy that also wants to work, right? I have a friend that sometimes, Thursdays are known as, I don't know if you want to edit this, but Thursdays are known as Thirsty Thursdays, right?
Yep.
Because people go out drinking, but we would call them Thirsty Thursdays. But really what that was is that we would both stay late and work. That was our Thirsty Thursdays, and usually came with pizza or tacos. But that was it. And so, find somebody that you maybe find a trait about them that you wish you had, or you could learn from. And don't be shy. A closed mouth never gets fed. It's very hard. One of the hardest things to do maybe is ask for help, but you have to. You have to be able to speak up. You have to be able to advocate for yourself and advocate for others, because nobody is going to do it for you. So
No,
that's just like what you're doing here. And I'm so happy that you're doing it, because you don't know how many people you're advocating for that don't have a voice, or maybe are too shy to speak up, or I've never had that issue. I'm sure I did, maybe probably when I was a kid. But yeah, I guess the advice I would say is to find a mentor, or get somebody that you can a work best friend. And work.
I like the work best friend.
Yeah.
I'm flashing back to the beginning of my career and during that stage of life, and it was fantastic having those individuals in your corner going through the same things. A lot of them started off around the same time that I did. We knew nothing, right? But we banded together, learned, and I still keep in touch with them after all these years. It's fantastic to watch them and their careers grow over the years.
I think that the great thing too is, like you say, we knew nothing, but you knew nothing together, and you grew together. So you formed that sort of a bond. And at the end of the day, I think it can only help, because it helps with inclusivity, bringing people together, making them feel like they're part of the team, not just saying they're part of the team.
Right. In the recycling world, to put it in perspective of the whole supply chain, recycled materials that come out of companies like SA Recycling, recycled metals, essentially, go into the production of other metals. So like aluminum smelter would go into a steel mill, and then eventually would go to a service center to be processed down, and ultimately your car door on your vehicle. In your career, I bet you've seen some really interesting and cool things. Do you have a top one, a top three that you would want to share in terms of some interesting things you've seen either come into the yard, or the processes you've seen throughout the years?
Wow. Let me see. I'm trying to think of. cool stuff that I have seen throughout the years. We had one customer that built himself a replica of the where the astronauts train, and it looked like maybe the size of a 20-foot container, a little bit shorter, where they train in zero gravity. But obviously he didn't have the zero gravity. And he reproduced it to look like that from the inside. It was all metal. And I remember the first time I met him, I told him, I can scrap that. And he said, oh, no, never. And then, so we ended up scrapping that. But sometimes we get stuff that has to be, certified destruction, and you'll get brand new things, and everybody's heart's breaking just watching these brand new, we just had brand new ATVs in here the other day, and I was like, sorry, pal, don't even look at them. Don't look at them when they come in, because it's all has to be, somebody's gonna be here, they're gonna videotape this. And so we get that. I can't think of anything as far as that we recycled. We do have tours and stuff, and I've had the pleasure of touring like the Boys and Girls Club at our Carson facility and the Boys and Girls Club Metro out of our LA facility. And when you show these kids what is actually getting recycled, it's bigger than the bin. Like, they think recycling bottles and cans. Oh, miss, bottles and cans. Yes, but what else? And then you take them outside and you show them, and their faces just light up, and it's so cool. It's a cool thing. And I think that is it makes recycling, even a stove, fun, just to see those little kids' faces,
Oh, absolutely. There was a scene in John Sacco's The Repurposed series, which, if you're unfamiliar with it, who's ever listening or watching, go check it out on YouTube. It's fantastic. The first series talks about steel, and it has 4 or 5 episodes that goes through the whole process. But I sat down and watched it with my husband, and he has never seen an auto shredder before in real life, right? Most people haven't, unless they're in this industry. And he was fascinated by it. They picked up a car, they picked up a bus at one point, and they're loading it into the shredder. And he's like, they're not cutting it. They're not doing something else to it. I'm like, sometimes they don't have to, and they can just put the whole thing in there. Now, I'm skipping a lot of steps, and yes, you drain the fluids. And
I was going to say,
yes, no, definitely missing a lot of steps here. But generally speaking, you could see that it was still a car, right, going in there. And he was fascinated by it. And I think most people would be fascinated by what we can do, especially in the recycling industry, right? It's fascinating.
It really is. It really is. And it's crazy that every single time, I could tell you, I go to a lot of Chamber of Commerce meetings, a lot. I mean, 2-3 times a week, easy. I talk to, different schools. And when I tell them what we do, you would think that by now I would have had a good chunk of the population, right? But it's still people that are surprised. Oh, you take that? Yes. I said, and I'll tell you again, from the fridge to the bridge.
Yes.
Your bed rails totally fall in there. Your old stove totally falls in line there. We'll take it. So I know there's a lot of work to be done in spreading the good news of recycling and all of the benefits of recycling. But I think we're going in the right direction.
Absolutely. You're one of the more active people in real life and on LinkedIn and other social media sites. So if you haven't followed her already, absolutely follow Christine, because I feel like every other day you're posting at, this community event, you're at the Chamber of Commerce, you're networking somewhere else, and you are that individual the recycling industry needs to be able to go out there and be the voice and educate and let people know that the United States does a pretty decent job in terms of recycling. And our manufacturing, our metals industry relies on the recycling industry. A lot of what we produce here is not from ore, it's from recycled metals. And so it's great to meet someone that champions it, is educated about it, knows the right people to call, to help protect that industry and help it grow as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a huge compliment. I feel like I see other people doing so much more, and again, like there's so much we could do, but we can only take one day at a time, one problem at a time, and slowly but surely the word about recycling and recycled materials is getting out.
Absolutely. And that's why we're doing this. We want to help educate and just bring awareness to other career tracks, that if you want to get into the recycling industry, how do you get into it? You can start reaching out to companies like SA, going on to LinkedIn, using those keywords, trying to find those organizations. Lastly, I want to take a look ahead. What goals or projects do you have in mind for your future work in the metals industry? We talked about a little bit about what you have been working on, what you've been doing. Is there a next chapter? Is there the next project? What's coming down the pipeline?
I wish that I could say, but I don't know. I hope to continue in the capacity that I'm at. I hope that we can continue to keep spreading the word about recycled materials. This industry does so much good for the environment. Wholeheartedly, I believe that. And I am here to help, here to network, here to, like you said, connect people. That's the number one thing I do. If I can't help you, but I think I know someone that can, I will be there to connect you. And I love operations, so I can't be too far from here. I really haven't put much thought. I mean, you think about it, but the thing about recycling and this industry is just that it changes. It's extremely dynamic. You can have at times challenges and hurdles coming at you in every direction. You have to be able to pivot. And I think that's one of the things that has helped me so far, is that we're working on this project. Would you like to help us out? Yes. And you have to pivot, right? You have to change and adapt to whatever is coming. And I think that, like we're saying, opportunities for improvement, opportunities for advancement, those are all going to come in good time, in due time. But you just have to be there. You have to be present and be ready for when they do come.
That's really exciting. And again, the growth mindset, that optimistic viewpoint on yourself, the industry, just a little bit of society as a whole is really refreshing and wonderful to hear.
It gets annoying after a while.
Never. Too much of a good thing. I don't think that's the thing. Well, I just want to say again, thank you so much for hopping on here and bringing your expertise, your knowledge, what you work on, where how you got into this industry. It's just been really wonderful to connect with you, speak with you, and learn a little bit more about what you're working on at SA Recycling.
Thank you. I appreciate it.